Welcome to a very special episode of the OutThere Colorado Podcast. Today's an interview episode, sitting down here with Dave Ramsay, the Chief Visionary Officer of DM Vans. How's it going?
Great.
Yeah, we were just talking on the way into the studio and just drove up from New Mexico area.
Yeah, just about a 3-hour drive up. Wasn't too bad, and gorgeous scenery, so can't complain.
Yeah, and you've been life on the road for 11 years now?
11. It'll be 11 years in May.
Yeah, so that's a lot of places, a lot of experiences,
Yep.
a lot of tips and tricks, and we're going to be diving into all of that. But first, I want to hear about your background.
Yep.
Like, what brought you into the scene of vans?
Yeah, it was definitely not premeditated. My kind of whole history of it, if you really want to go back, it goes to when I was about 10 years old, and I saw a conversion van for the first time, and this is like 1980s conversion van, so like Chevy Express with the top and the graphics on the side, but that had 2 armchairs in the back and a little TV. And I just remember as a 10-year-old being like, you could watch TV while someone drives you. And so I'd always had a curiosity with vans, RVs, just the concept of being able to kind of take your home wherever you go. And so it was always in the back of my head, but I actually went into a career in finance. I worked in New York City after college in the hedge fund world, and did that for 7-8 years or so. And it was kind of random how it all came together, but really what happened was I was going to start a business. I wanted to start a business, and living in New York City, overhead, rent, utilities, all that, astronomical. So kind of the runway of doing the math, I'm like, oh man, if I stay in New York, this thing's got to work real quick.
Yeah.
And that's when I really started to explore, are there more affordable ways to live? Are there more affordable ways to kind of function where I did have to travel, because I was raising money from investors and things like that. And so the RV world was really kind of the sweet spot of, you could finance them for like $450 a month back then. But I still was able to travel all across the country and meet investors. And so, probably not the typical, path to get into RV life. And it was a van at the end of the day that I ended up landing on. But it was kind of the testament to how universally applicable the lifestyle is. So, here I am starting a investment business, which has nothing to do with the outdoors, nothing to do with recreation. But this lifestyle really made it, viable. And so that short runway, all of a sudden I had a 3-year runway to be successful in the business. So really opened up the door and opportunity for me to at least give it a shot, or give it a real shot, if you will. And so, it was probably, again, not the standard path, but I would not have, been able to do what I've done to this point had I not gone into the mobile living world.
Yeah, I think a very important point there too is that people tend to associate camper vans with someone who's like extremely outdoorsy.
Yep.
Like they're willing to go into the wilderness and never shower and never use a public bathroom, and it's not that at all. It's a very convenient way in a lot of ways of just camping and kind of taking all of that with you in a very wide, diverse range of places too. All right, so we get to this point in your life where you think that starting a company around creating these custom camper vans is viable, right?
Yep.
So what brought you to take that leap and to creating DM Vans?
Yeah. So it's again kind of going back to, I'd started this other business. Early on in that business, I was pretty heads down with all the legal and compliance and the stuff you got to do for that. And there was a time period where I wasn't going to be using the RV, because I pretty much just put my head down. I think I was at my parents' house at that point. They weren't even living there anymore. There was up for sale, but it was a quiet space for a couple of months to go focus. So how it actually all started was I decided to post my van for rent. There were a couple of websites out there. RV Share was one back in the day, and Outdoorsy had just started. And I was like, you know what? If I'm not using it, maybe someone else out there will. And honestly, I was like, maybe someone rents it for a weekend or a week or whatever. And I mean, that thing booked out solid for 4 months.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, wow. And so I actually started to talk to a real estate friend of mine, and I was like, hey, man, look, here are the numbers of this thing. I think there's something here, like, you know, the monthly payments and how much you can get in the rental income and all that. And so we put it in the model, and the numbers were pretty impressive. And so I actually kind of now in parallel started an RV rental business back then.
Mm-hmm.
And I had about 4 or 5 RVs, like true RVs. They were road treks, but just your typical RV you'd buy at Camping World, but on a van chassis.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, had this rental fleet going. And pretty quickly I started to realize these things break a lot. The quality is not good. A lot of plastic materials, a lot of fake materials. And, you know, having to turn these RVs around for the rental business so much, I just was like, man, this is a headache. Like, things are breaking all over the place. It's expensive to repair. You're in the service shop all the time. Like, anyway, cost of ownership and just kind of the maintenance hassle was such a burden. And then I started exploring what was kind of blossoming at that point, which was more of the custom van world. And we're talking back 2016, 2017. So way before kind of the boom of COVID. So there were some builders out there, and I started to poke around and met with some of them, saw the product, and just started to realize, like, wow, there's a way different way to build these things where they could actually hold up and be reliable, be simpler, be less intimidating, like all the issues that RVs have.
Mm-hmm.
And so the rental business is actually, and all the PTSD I have from living out of the RVs, the true RVs, and renting the true RVs, really was kind of the blossoming of, I think I can build something that's more in line with what people actually want based on the rental feedback I had gotten, based on my own usage of the thing. And so I met up with my business partner, Matt, who I knew from college, and he was actually building his own van when we met, kind of serendipitously. And we were just kind of talking back and forth. And so, you know, we kind of built the first van together. He had a bunch of help from other people up in the Vail area. And, you know, that was kind of the first product we had. And then we looked at it and said, I think this is just a way better approach. It's simpler. You know, again, less things that can break. It can be beat up pretty badly in the National Forest and BLM land here. And, you know, I think it was kind of just test the market, and the flood was there. This is back in 2018. So many people were trying to find a more affordable option that was reliable, kind of like the best bang for the buck value type thing. And so for us, it was just kind of a missing gap in the market. It's like you either got to buy an RV that's probably going to break on you, and also they're not the cheapest thing in the world. And then the custom vans that existed at that point were like astronomical, like the things you'd think of, like a $200,000 Sprinter van, or $180,000, whatever it was back then. But I think our first van was like $37,000. Wow. And that van's still on the road and has never had an issue. And so it's like there was a better way to do it and find this gap, to just, you know, they're not cheap. They're just more simple. We strip more things out that through the process I learned you didn't really need. So all the things that are in there are incredibly intentional, but we don't have all the excess and all that crap. So it just kind of clicked, and we found that niche in the market, and it's kind of been the same thing since day one.
What are some of the examples of like the excess?
Oh man.
Or like maybe like one or two examples.
I mean, I think the most obvious one for me, especially when you're talking about more of kind of an off-grid crowd, which I would say is mostly what you find out west, particularly in Colorado, things like generators. Yeah. It's just like you have to have a propane tank underneath, which is dangerous. You know, it really gets in the way of your clearance if you ding that thing on a rock or on a forest road or whatever. Not the safest thing in the world. And then it's just this loud, obnoxious generator. And those things cost like $5,000 to put in, let alone all the labor it takes to put the propane tank and hook it all up. So like if I did the math on it, if I wanted to add a propane generator to our van, I bet it would be an extra $10,000 for something that I don't think any of my renters ever used. I never used. And so it really came into this, like, I never want to charge something in the business, and I never want to own something that has stuff in it that I don't want, that I don't need. If I want it, hopefully I can add it, but don't give it to me ahead of time and make me pay for it if I'm never going to use it. So the generator is like the prime example, but there's there's so many things, all the little bells and whistles that like photographs well. It makes you think that you need it. It's easy to market these things. When you've actually used the product and you start to look after 5 years and you're like, I don't even know what that button does. Like, why is it here? And you find out that it's connected to some system that you've never turned on before. It's like, yeah, let's strip all that out. Like, you don't need it.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. It's just another thing that breaks,
That's
another thing that weighs the van down. And yeah, I mean, it makes sense.
After the rental business, that was like every RV I look at, especially, that's all I do. I look around. I'm like, that could break, and that could break, and that could break. And then to get the replacement part, it's not like you just go to Home Depot. It's like you got to order it from an RV dealer or some mail order catalog, which still exists, by the way, in the RV industry. And that was exactly the mentality was I want fewer things that can break so these things actually stay on the road. Because the big distinction, too, is like the RV crowd, which are going to RV parks and, just picture kind of the old school, like, Florida or whatever. They're stationary. They're in adjacent to a city usually. It's not truly outdoors. Some of the places here in Colorado, you get pretty far off. And if something breaks out there, you can't just walk down the road or drive down the road and get it fixed. Like I've been in some places like, hours into national forest. And so it really was important that like, if we're putting it in there, it better hold up. And I'm talking too, because I live out of our van and I have lived out of ours now for 7 years. For me as well, not just for our customer base and who our actual business sells for. It's like, I need it to work.
Yeah.
I need it to be reliable for me. So I have a lot of skin in the game, and that when I'm 2 hours off grid, my water pump and everything like that, my electrical system better function. And the thought of having an RV out there, and I've been out there with RVs before that have broken, it's, never do it.
Yeah, that makes sense. So kind of going back a little bit, 2019 rolls around and you decide to launch the company like full bore, selling the vans to clients. Did you see that like immediate interest, that immediate like business pickup right there, or was it a kind of a grind and then COVID hits, or what's it been like the last 7 years or so?
Yeah, it's at the start, I think we were just lucky, right? The Vanlife fad had kind of started to ramp up with Instagram. I mean, when I started living in the van, May of 2015, most people were like, "What? Like you live in a van? Like that doesn't make any sense." By 2019, when we actually launched the company formally, I'd say there was a lot more traction with social media, and I think even the difference between 2015 and 2019 with social media, huge boom in the presence there and how people were engaging with it, and so. I would say right from the get-go, there was a lot of interest, right? Especially at our price point, what we were doing, simple, straightforward, reliable. Like, I think people, had been struggling to find that. That was actually Matt, my business partner. His whole thing was he was a teacher in Vail. He couldn't spend $200,000 in a Sprinter and he didn't want to buy an RV that was going to break. And so he was like our first customer, basically, of what do I find in the middle? And so we found there's a lot of people that match that category of, I don't have all the money in the world, and I also don't want the thing to break and have to spend more money on that too. And so, yeah, right out the gate, a lot of interest in what we were doing. Obviously, the COVID boom was crazy. Like, to put it in perspective, in the RV world, the van market went from 6,000 vans sold. I think it was in 2019. And I always get these dates wrong, whether it was 2020 or 2021. But the next year, 18,000. So. 200-300% increase.
Yeah.
So that was all chaos and crazy. And I think we did, I think we went like 40, 100, and 180.
Wow.
So boom, boom, boom. And then the market went down 62% over the next 2 years and went right back to 6,000 or 7,000 units, what it was pre-COVID. So from a business perspective, it's been wild because trying to get a pulse on the market, trying to figure out where everything's at, especially with this flood of RVs in the market in 2021. We joke, it's like we've been through about every business cycle you could possibly be in 7 years. Booms, busts, supply chain issues, and now most recently you've got tariffs and a war, and we've had multiple wars. I mean, it's like how much more stuff can get thrown at you. So it's been interesting to navigate. It's been interesting to kind of feel out the market and see how things have changed. And there's been a lot of van builders that have come into the market. At one point, our math was there were about 550 of them in the country.
Wow.
Which is pretty crazy when you think about the market size was like 2,000 custom vans.
Mm-hmm.
So 4 on average per. Yeah. When you're trying to do 200, it's a little different. So it's just been kind of a fascinating 7 years to be in business. And I think if you take the approach of just learning and reassessing how do you position yourself in a way that's sustainable and try not to be as reactionary, we've learned a lot of lessons in that. So it's been a struggle, but also incredibly powerful. And I think it's really established a better foundation for the brand, for what we're doing for our customer base, as opposed to just riding these crazy waves of like 300% booms, 60% crashes. It's like that. I'm done with that. That's not what we ultimately want. We just want to be there consistently for people, and do our best to navigate that.
Yeah, that's got to be a crazy period of time to be starting a business and kind of learning the market. And but good thing you caught the COVID wave though too, and didn't try to start it in the middle of that. But I do want to talk about the different vans that you offer. But before we get into that, you mentioned back in 2015 when you're getting into van life, not many people are doing that at the time. And when we were on the phone a few days ago, you mentioned that when you spend that much time on the road in a van, you get a little weird in a sense. So I kind of want to talk about just your experience over the last 11 or so years of being full-time van life.
Yeah.
And what that's been like, what memories stick out, what's good about it, what's bad about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, just would you mind chatting about that a little bit?
Yeah, I think I was a little weird to get into it in the first place. I don't think it made me much weirder, but no, I think again the thing that I've discovered over that time period is just how universally applicable van life is. And really, you could call it whatever you want, mobile living. And I tell my team this all the time. If you're doing any sort of mobile living, traveling in anything with wheels, I'm all for it, right? Like we're all on the same team from that perspective. I don't care if you've got $1 million earth roamer that, maybe you don't use as much or you don't actually earth roam with it. You're at least in that lifestyle in some way, right? And so at that level, there's just kind of a, compassion to everybody who's doing it. And so for me, I think, I had my way of doing it. I'm more of an urban van lifer, quote unquote. I've been to all 48 states. I've been to every major city. I've lived in the van in every major city, New York, LA, you name it. And so for me, it was just cool to be able to kind of express my authenticity that way and not feel like I have to, mold into some outdoorsy adventure. Like I do that. I just was in Taos in the middle of a mountain for the last week, basically. But I get to kind of make it my own thing. And I think that it's a great, again, what I've discovered is that it's a great lifestyle to just do what you want to do with it. And there's really no judgment around how you're supposed to. It just is this like really amazing tool to enable whatever it is, whatever you're into, whether it is the outdoors and you want to chase powder everywhere and ski or mountain bike all over the place, whatever you want to do in that world, but also like me, business. I want to start a business. And so that made sense. And so, overall, that's been kind of the big learning for me as far as why I've been so attracted to it. And I was with another van lifer in Taos, and I just was saying we found this spot, in Carson National Forest, and we're out on the edge of this mountain, and you're looking out over the plains, and then you've got the mountains behind you, and it was one of those moments where I just was like, this is free. Like this is I just get to live here for 2 weeks. If you built a house on that piece of property, it'd be $5 million, and I get to be there for nothing and experience that. So that's kind of the overarching thing. To get into the specifics of like, there's those are the positives. The negatives are always just like you're in 50 square feet of space, right? And this thing's going through an earthquake every day. You're driving 75 miles an hour down the road through dirt, national forest land. You can take these things. You don't need a 4x4 Sprinter, by the way. I think everyone thinks you need one. I can take my ProMaster, which is front wheel drive, some pretty gnarly places, and it just gets beaten to hell. And so there's been a lot of learning experiences about, how to make sure that things stay secure, that things don't, fly across your van and shatter like a glass of coffee grounds that then get everywhere, or you leave a gallon of water on top of your kitchen. And so I've had so many of those experiences, and, it is interesting. It's almost part of the charm of it in that you just get to be humbled pretty darn often, but also you get to problem solve every day. Where am I going to park? How am I going to park? And there's ways to do it where you can ease that burden, stay in the same place consistently, like I just did for a couple of weeks. You find your spot, you're good. But when I'm really on the road, you're in a new city every day. You're trying to figure out, like I was just in Roswell, New Mexico, driving from Santa Fe down to Austin, Texas, right? I actually hadn't been to Roswell. They have an amazing contemporary art museum that's free with like an artist in residency program, right? And like I was just Googling what the hell's in Roswell other than the aliens, and stumbled upon that, right? And so, you could view going through some of these areas as a negative. Like Roswell's pretty barren out there. There's not a ton going on if you're not into the conspiracy thing. So you can view it kind of as, Roswell's a pass-through city or whatever, or you can take a different approach to it of, I'm here. What cool thing can I find? What unique experience can I get out of this? And so a lot of van life is mentality, and I think that, especially in this day and age, and I was this way of, you just get so comfortable with all these amenities that you think are just, a right at the end of the day, and showering, bathrooms, things like that. Like once you realize, like, you can function without these things fully. Like I shower almost every day, even though I don't have a shower in my van. And it's just, there's ways around it that you figure out how to do that really aren't that hard. But you're so used to the way of doing things that, you think it's so daunting and so impossible, but it's more of that growth mindset thing of just like when you're in the van and all of a sudden you got to figure out a way to do it. It's amazing how adaptable humans are. And like, I was a city kid. I'm not the most outdoorsy person in the world. I'm not a MacGyver by any means and these things. And it's not hard to find these solutions to these problems, and it makes you appreciate them so much more. I mean, if you talk to any van lifer, like the joke is always when you do get to a real shower, you're going to sit there for like 20 minutes because you finally have like unlimited water, even though it's not. But so it makes you appreciate those little things a little bit better. And you also realize that, yeah, I'm making a little bit of a trade-off by having less space, by having things a little bit less convenient. But again, I get to go live on top of mountains. I get to go live at the beaches. I get to go travel wherever I want to travel to and experience these things that I don't want to say are impossible, but are way less attainable to experience in life. And so is that trade-off worth it? It's like, yeah, of course it is.
Yeah, it seems like this sense of freedom that comes with even if you're not in the van full time, but just having that as something in your repertoire of vehicles, so to speak.
Yeah.
That sense of freedom that comes along with it. And even just like how you're talking about like Roswell, where there's like not much there. Most people look at it as like barren space.
Yep.
People aren't planning, week-long vacations to Roswell. But you also mentioned it's like it's free to be there. So it kind of maybe makes it easier to enjoy those smaller places around the country where it's like your cost is nothing aside from gas and then the van, obviously. But you're there, you might as well enjoy it. Do the little small thing and take advantage of that. Yeah.
And I just that again, that appreciation and gratitude for, especially in Colorado. And I think that, we are so fortunate in this state and really out west in general. But I grew up in Minnesota, lived in New England in the Northeast for 12 years. BLM land, National Forest land, not a thing. Like it does not exist east of Denver. I mean, it does, but it's very sparse. You look at the percentages. We are so fortunate out here to have this access to public land. And so it is really this amazing opportunity for you to explore and to, again, be grateful for the opportunity as opposed to, I don't know the right terminology to kind of attach to it, but I don't want to say, maybe it's elitist, I don't know the right term, but appreciating just the little subtleties of being out in nature, being in these areas that, I've been in places that you cannot get to unless you're driving. Like there's not an airport within 4 hours of these cities. And I've been able to drive through it and get to know people and talk to them and just be open to where are we? What is going on in this town here?
Mm-hmm.
And there's always cool stories. There's always interesting people, and it, I don't know, it just creates this sort of openness to the experiences that you're going to have, and being less judgmental, and just more, again, grateful for the opportunity to experience these things. Because if you have a very closed-minded, judgmental mentality and you're trying to live van life, it's going to be pretty difficult, because that means that, those little inconveniences that pop up, the issues that you run into along the way, which will happen in all of life, whether it's vans or not, or RVs, whatever. It's going to be tough, right? And if you approach it with just a different perspective of, again, grateful that I get to do this, even when if something happens and it breaks down, or which fortunately has never happened to me, but something breaks, whatever it might be, you get stuck in the mud, who knows, of what's your approach going to be? Are you going to be grateful for where you're at? Are you going to be, curious about what's around you? Or are you going to pout and complain? And because, again, it's whichever way you look at it, every day could be either amazing or terrible. So it's trained me, and there's definitely frustrating days. There's definitely days where you get stressed, but in general, it's been that experience that's kind of opened my mind to be way more adaptable, way more curious, and way more comfortable, just kind of like walking around and seeing what's available, right? And I've got so many stories of that. I generally travel alone. I've ended up in places where I don't know anybody. I've never been to the town before. There's one recently in Laughlin, Nevada, which is next to Bullhead City, Arizona, which, again, I don't think anyone would find unless you're driving. I'm just walking around, and I found out that there was like a truck race out in the desert that was going on at that time, and it's apparently a huge deal. Had no idea. Happens every year. I forget the name of it, and I forget the type of trucks, but it's like the Ford Raptor style, which people will probably get offended that I called them that, because they're way cooler. But I just wandered by myself for about a mile, saw a big cloud of dust, was just curious what was going on, and all of a sudden there's just these trucks just jumping through the desert, going through dunes and stuff like that. And so, again, it's just that curiosity of like, I don't know anyone here. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know where I'm even at, but let's go explore and see what's going on over there. And meeting people. There was a bunch of casino town in Laughlin there, but just going to the casinos and just talking to people at the breakfast buffet or whatever the hell's going on there, right? And curious where they come from. Ironically, Laughlin, Nevada, I found out, huge contingency of northern Minnesota people, where I'm not from northern Minnesota, but I am from Minneapolis. And I know all the areas they're talking about. And I'm like, how did you end up from International Falls, Minnesota, on the border of Canada, all the way in Laughlin, Nevada? Like, what the hell? And they told me the whole story. Like, well, some people started to come down here. The weather's nice, obviously the winter. And then, people want the comfort of, I know people. And so then all of a sudden, all these people, Duluth, Bemidji, I'm just like, hell. So it was just this wild, like, here you are in this town that you think might have nothing going on or nothing for you. And by just exploring it a little bit, you're like, oh man, I learned a ton about this area. So, I didn't really answer all your question there, but that's kind of just how I've approached it in my experiences of, again, how I approach negative ones and how I approach the positive ones, and kind of the mentality you have to be functional.
Yeah. To kind of go off of the good days and bad days aspect you were talking about, what would you say was like a best day on the road and a worst day on the road?
Yeah, I mean, best day is hard. I mean, like I said, I've been to all lower 48. I've had just amazing experiences. Like, people always ask, "What's your favorite place to go?" I'm like, no idea. Like, it depends on the season. It depends on what I'm looking for. Like, so the good ones, I don't even know if I can answer, right? Like, it's just those days where you're in these amazing places, and again, you get to connect with where you're at, be very grounded with what you're doing, feel that freedom of some of the. Well, actually, you know what? I'll tell you one positive one that I can remember, and it's an odd one, but I worked corporate America, quote unquote, right? Hedge fund world, Connecticut. It's high stress thing, and I'm doing the RV rental thing, and I decided to move my fleet out to California in the winters because in Minnesota can't rent vans. I remember being out in California, and there was a night in Sunnyvale, so kind of Bay Area, Peninsula area, and all the vans are out on the road, rented, and I just remember it was like 10 o'clock at night, and I didn't have a toilet in that van, and so I'm just literally strolling over to a 7-Eleven to go to the bathroom. That's the story. But the feeling I had of this just incredible like weight off of my shoulders, like pure 100% freedom of I don't have a boss, I don't have anyone looking over me, I have nothing to do right now, like nothing, because all the vans are on the road, so there's nothing else I can do. And to stroll casually down the road at 10 o'clock at night, I think it was 65 degrees California weather, and feeling that weight off, I like can't describe it. And I think only people that have maybe worked like 9 to 5 or really tough jobs who have ever gotten to taste like a sabbatical or just complete freedom. It's like it was one of the most amazing experiences, and I'll never forget it. And again, the story is actually just me going to the bathroom, so like it's not anything fancy, but
that's a beautiful story.
Oh yeah, it's to this day I can like feel the emotion of that moment, because it really was the first time I felt like I'm in control of my own life for the first time, and I truly don't have anything else tying me down or holding me back. So that's definitely one of the positive ones. The negative one that this is probably the most common story I tell for this one. This is an RV story that is one of the main reasons that we don't do generators and never will. I was in, I think it's Bighorn National Forest in Wyoming, 2008 road trek. So sprinter van, 24 feet, one of the big luxury looking ones that photograph real well, but then when you actually start touching everything, you realize it's fake. That was my first one. So a lot of learning really early in the kind of experience of van life. And I'm on this like single track road. It's not gnarly, like it's not true like Jeep road off-roady, but like it is a single track. There is no place to turn around really. So I'm just going, and this is a rear-wheel drive sprinter, not lifted, fiberglass side skirts, like propane tank underneath, very low clearance. This is not like a lifted truck by any means. I'm driving down this road, and I'm starting to realize like I'm getting pretty deep into this national forest that I've never been at. No cell service. This is pre-Starlink. So I'm starting to be like, I don't know where this goes, and I don't know where I'm about to end up, and I can't turn around. I mean, I could back out 4 miles, but that's not fun to do either. So, I'm starting to just kind of get that feeling of like something bad might happen here. And so I'll never forget, I could probably bring you exactly the location this happened at. I get to this road, there's a fork, and to the left, I kind of had like the grainy map on my phone when you don't have service. I kind of tell, I'm like, okay, I think a couple miles out there, I can get back to the main road, but it is like a steep dive over a creek, nothing major, and then kind of a wind up a hill. So it's not the flattest place in the world, but to the right on my little grainy map looked like it was just more going deeper, right? So I go down the hill, and that wasn't the most fun in the world because it was pretty steep. I get to the creek, and I realize like this is gnarlier than I thought. Like it's not super deep, but there's some big rocks, and it's probably 6 inches deep. So I get out of the van, and I'm like staring at the rocks, and I'm like, can I get my wheels over the rocks and like hop them in a way to get to the other side of the stream? And I got about 5 feet and just mashed right down, like fell off one of the rocks. Generator got stuck right behind like a boulder, like stuck in the ground, and they're touching each other, and it's probably 4 inches down. And I looked at it, and I was like, oh God, like I am wedged against the boulder, and I don't have anything to like jack my van up, and I am 5 miles into a national forest with no service. And so I got out, and I'm staring at it, and I'm just like, and you can't just call AAA to a national forest. As we know here, they're not going to come out there. So I literally had to pack a bag that I assumed I was going to be walking for, is about 14 miles into town. I packed a bag where I'm like, I'm going to have to hike out of here, go and bribe somebody to find some sort of off-road tow truck to come up into this mountain, lift my van up off the ground, and get it across this river because there was no way I could do it. So I just remember staring at this thing and being like, I am so screwed right now, and this is going to cost me thousands of dollars. So that's the bad story. Now, we'll stop on that, and then I will then quickly tell you. So I start walking, and no joke, I get over the first little mound, and there is this like jacked up GMC Jimmy truck that I swear to God, the license plate was something along the lines of like loves to tow. I'm not kidding you. And I like go up to him and I'm like, I'm pretty stuck back there. And he's like, hell yeah, let's go figure it out. So he drives up over there, looks at it. He has all of this stuff and he literally jacks my RV up, puts rocks into a little pile, gets me unstuck, tows me up the hill because my rear wheel drive would have never made it up there. I wish I would have had front wheel at that point. Tows me up the giant hill. And then literally escorts me out of the forest as the sun is setting. We get out of national forest. So
my gosh,
this weird like guardian angel guy came out of nowhere. So it could have been terrible. It turned out to not actually be that bad, but it just was one of those stories of you just got to be ready for whatever. And I got lucky in that one because that van could still be stuck there had that guy not showed up. So that's always the like horror story I tell of how bad it could have been, and then I lucked out about as much as you can.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah,
that's that is a good learning lesson.
Oh God, yeah. Don't cross the creek. And it was that good learning experience of just the limitations and the capabilities and what can happen. And respecting that, right? And I think in Colorado especially, I think everyone here who's on the outdoors has a healthy respect for it's dangerous, right? Whether you're skiing in avalanche danger or mountain lion danger, or whatever the hell else is out there. There's so many things that they're unlikely, but you gotta be prepared for them. You've gotta, again, respect the potential risk. And I was so early in that was, again, a good learning experience. But I've had so many of those that, even that scenario, like even if the guy hadn't shown up, I would have figured out a way to get out of there. It would have been time consuming. It would have been annoying. It would have been, painful. It would have been expensive, but nothing's impossible. Like if you get it there, you can get it out. So again, it's just that mentality of, bad things happen every day, quote unquote. But that's more subjective. It's just there are issues and there are problems that pop up, and you get these opportunities to learn and problem solve. And honestly, like that's all of my company, the values of our company, all of our employees like have that same mentality. When we come into work, half my staff is Vanlifers as well. Like it is just such a positive way to approach life in general. You can either view it, cliche, half empty, glass half empty, or glass half full. But really, it's more just there's always opportunities to learn and grow and have these experiences. None of them will kill you, hopefully. That will teach you something. And so I think if you push on that path, whether it's in your own life or for our company, whether it's product design or brand or culture or whatever we're trying to do, it's just how do we continue to learn from things and push the limits, but realize that, we're malleable and take some hits and then you learn from it and you continue on. So, I don't know if it was the chicken or the egg, but van life is that to me and RV life is that to me. And I think our entire staff that we've hired takes the same approach in their lives and brings it to our business and then therefore our product. So it's all tied together.
Yeah, that's a great outlook to have on life, I would say.
Hard at the moment every once in a while, but you take a step back and you're like, all right, we'll be fine.
yeah, no, for sure. And I can see where it would just be kind of like little constant little things you got to solve just the entire time you're on the road.
Paper cuts.
So we were chatting about this before previously, but this idea of like the van curious person and how there's a lot of people in Colorado that are outdoorsy but haven't like made that jump into van life or into like weekend warrior van life. I think one thing that a lot of those people might benefit from hearing from you would be what unexpected things do people encounter whenever they start to make that transition in van life? Like, what is something where, they buy the van, they're ready to hit the road, and then all of a sudden something happens. And it's like, what is that unexpected thing?
I mean, could be anything. No, I mean, I think there's so much to it, and I think our main goal and our main approach as the business has been to just educate. That is the goal, and I mean that wholeheartedly. I believe firmly that we are not the van for everybody. I don't think any van is the van for everybody. I don't think any RV, I don't think any product in the world is perfect for everybody. All we want to make sure is that everyone has all of the relevant information to make the most informed decision to fit their life best, right? I think to start, the number one biggest mistake is getting something you don't need, right? So like I've had plenty of friends that, oh, there's this really cool custom van. It's $225,000. It's got all this stuff. And it's like, whoa, what's your goal? What are you going to be using it for, right? What do you really need? And then I'm always a believer of start on the other end, start with less, and then add. It's always easier to add as it is to remove, as I said, right? When there's a generator on an RV, you're not just going to remove it and all the propane system that goes along with it. And so I think that's the first one, is just having the right information, the believable information, to find what do you need for your life. Because again, as I said, it's for everybody. Like RV life, van life, mobile life, whatever, all the car camping, it's all kind of in the same realm. It's for anybody who wants to be not where they are now. That's about it, right? And there's so much in this country with the highway systems and again, the public land and all that. So it is, but everyone's different what you're into. And so I think that's by far the number one place to start. And again, we try our best. I think a lot of the other companies in our space and more of the off-grid custom van space are better at being more transparent about what you're getting into, about why this is built the way that it's built. The RV industry, I think, struggles with that. I think you go to an RV dealership and you're not going to get an honest feedback from the salesperson. They're trying to sell you for commission, bluntly. They're not going to tell you that, oh, it's, by the way, all the latches are plastic. So if you start going on National Forest Road and you're rattling around, it's probably all going to break. It's all MDF. So if you go into humid environments, you get water in this thing, you throw skis in the back, it's all going to warp and it's going to, fall apart. Like you're not going to hear that at an RV lot, right? And so because we know those exist, I think a lot of the custom van builders and us included, we build the product better because we know the pitfalls. So then we're confident when we talk about the sales pitch, this is what you're getting. And I'll tell you what the downsides are of what we do. And I'll tell you what the upsides are. And you can figure out whether it fits in your life. So long-winded on that one, but I think that's by far the first issue. The second issue, I think it's just more of expectations of like, you just don't know. It's a motorhome at the end of the day. I mean, it's got an engine, it's a car, right? So like flat tires, engine not starting, transmission problem, those are all possible. They're unlikely, but they're possible. You leave it out in the winter and your water pump breaks. Like there's all sorts of little things. And so there isn't really any one thing I would say, oh, this is the big one that people always miss. It's more just, what are your expectations and where are you getting your information from? And what's cool now is like there's so much information out there from objective third parties through YouTube or Instagram or TikTok or whatever, that you can learn what you need to prepare for. So I think it's just preparing for the unpreparable, like just knowing that you might encounter something. But it is that upfront stuff. Find one that's actually built well, that has a reputation. And I can talk about that just quickly of like, there's something we've done, a couple other builders in this area have done, which is getting RVIA compliant, right? Kind of a boring topic, but Recreational Vehicle Industry Association regulates the RV industry. Basically every RV on the road has an RVIA sticker on it, which means it meets certain codes for plumbing, fire, and electric. The three most dangerous things that can happen in a vehicle. These are the industry standards, so it's kind of like a building code, right? And so the manuals are crazy thick, very stringent. It costs us more money to do this stuff, but they are the regulatory body to say this is what's safe and this is what is not safe. I can tell you firsthand, of the quote unquote probably 50 builders in the Colorado area, I know of 4, including us, that are RVA compliant.
Wow.
So when you're going and buying a custom RV, it's not just, or a custom camper van, it's not to say that it's not built well. It very well most likely is, but no one's checked it. No one's confirmed that it's done correctly. The wire gauges are the right wires, the right size, the terminals are connected the right way, and the plumbing's done in a way that's going to be safe, the fire protection, all that. So that was a big one too, to try to mitigate a lot of the oh crap moments when you first go out there, is that, yeah, we get inspected every quarter. They come out there, they look at everything we're doing and say, that's, this isn't right. You got to fix this, right? So there's just a lot of, in the custom world, and like, I don't think anyone knows about this, like RVA compliance is very much RV specific, but a lot of the custom builders are doing it because they want to make sure that you don't end up in those moments of, great, first trip's coming up and they didn't put the terminals on, or they didn't tighten the terminals for the batteries and it got loose, and now I have to troubleshoot it, right? Yeah. And the other really scary part about that is, if you buy from a custom builder, if you buy from especially a DIY thing on Facebook, a lot of things look great. It's all the behind the scenes stuff. If you're off somewhere, like if you're traveling in Washington, if you're in Florida, if you're in Maine, you're not going to get that repaired. Like, no RV service center is going to look at a custom van because they don't want the liability, right? So you bring it into them, they do the thing, they tighten a screw, and then 5 minutes later, the battery blows up. Well, who's to blame? Is it because they tightened the screw the wrong way? Like, so they won't touch them. If you're RVA compliant, any RV service center in the entire country is trained to repair them. So if you get broken down in Moab, if you get broken down in the middle of Washington, if you, like, wherever you are, any RV dealer can look at these things. So it's becoming this, like, and that's why more van builders are starting to get into this. It's important. Like, it opens up a huge door that I don't think people think through of, I'm going to use this thing to go far. That's the goal, right? You don't just take it to your local park in your city. You're taking it out there, right?
Yeah.
And so it's something that I just think people overlook, of they either think it's always going to work, or they just don't think about the pain of, like, for example, I was just in Taos, met a guy, he bought a custom van and something broke, like the lights aren't working. And he was like, I have to drive back to Colorado to get this fixed. And I'm like, to get your lights fixed? And he was like, well, yeah, like they offered to send me one, but then I was going to have to plug it in myself. And I'm like, yeah, good luck. Like, you're not handy. He's like, I'm not handy. And so I was just telling him, I'm like, yeah, man, like, there's this thing called RVA compliance, and like that, you could just go locally here. There's an RV dealer there. It's like, you could just go there and they would have just fixed this for you. Instead, you've got to drive 5 hours to get back to Colorado to have the original manufacturer fix it, let alone if those guys go out of business, now who fixes it, right? So again, I don't think there's one thing, but I think there's this prep work up front that is critical. And I think that you will see more people becoming RVA compliant because it is, again, this agreed upon safety standard. Now, again, how they do it, you could argue is somewhat subjective, but they've been doing it for like 60 plus years. There's 7 million RVs on the road. Almost all of those, I think like 90+% of them, are RVA compliant. And so, yeah, they've got some data points to back why they do things the way that they do things. So that was a big step for us to move from kind of custom van world, which is where we started in the first couple of years, to become like, we are a certified motorhome manufacturer, just like Winnebago, just like Thor, Airstream. When you go to the DMV and you register our van, the make is DM Vans. It's not a ProMaster. It's not a Sprinter. But that was all for safety and all for the reliability stuff that, again, because we're in Colorado and we know what can happen when things happen off grid, it was kind of just a no-brainer. It's like, we've got to make this thing more reliable for people. So very long-winded on that one, but I think that is the most critical stuff, is the prep work.
Yeah, it makes sense. I'm learning a lot. I'm loving this. Yeah, so you mentioned that they're your vans, right? So like, what's the process from, and obviously it's a very long process, but in terms of like, you get an order, vans go into market. Like, what are the steps there? Is it like are you buying a van, or is it like what's that look like?
Yeah, so again, there's a lot of ways to do it. I would say the classic route for the custom van world, how it started, way back in the day, and really when it started to boom in 2017, 18, 19. The classic way was bring me a van, and I will do some stuff to it to make it look cool, and then you're going to go drive it. But it's your van, and I'm just doing the upfit. That was how it mostly happened. And there's still a lot of people that do that. And they're basically just an upfitter, right? There's no certifications for that. There's nothing. They're just, it could be a guy in a garage who's somewhat handy. That's a lot of what I think people, a lot of the 550 builders I mentioned, a lot of them are that. They do a couple a year and it's fun and whatever. Then there is this big step where if you are actually buying the van, so if my company, prior to what we do now, and I'll explain that in a second, what we used to go buy used ProMasters, Ram ProMasters. So I would have flown to Omaha, Florida, Texas, you name it. I've gone all over, picked up vans, brought them back. So I bought them, our company bought them. We then did the upfit, and we sold the whole package. But it's still just a Ram ProMaster from a titling perspective. Like, it's just a van. The DMV, no one knows that, like, oh, it's been transformed into an RV or whatever, camper van. So some weird things with that, insurance-wise, it's hard. Like, well, am I insuring it as a ProMaster? Am I insuring it with the extra $30,000 I just put inside of here? So it gets a little bit dicey there. The other reality is that if you sell more than, I think the number is 5, if any person sells more than 5 used vehicles in a year, you have to become a dealer. I think that's Colorado rule. It's either 3 or 5, something like that. So we sold 3 in the first 3 months, and it was like, oh boy, we got to become a dealership. So we actually became a used car dealer. So we would go buy these things, and there's benefits there, be the dealership and make it more formal and be able to write the paperwork and all that stuff. So that was kind of our next morph. Was people used to bring us vans to do the upfit, but then everyone was like, it's hard to find vans, and especially during COVID, people were like, you can't find any vans. And so I'm like, great, I'll fly to Florida, I'll get you a van, I'll bring it here, we'll pay for it, and you just buy it all together. That then morphed into, that's difficult. You have mechanical issues. They're used vehicles, right? They get beat up. They're cargo vans too, so they're commercial. Like, it's hard to find quality ones. And I don't want to be liable for a strut. Like, we're not mechanics. We do the upfit, right? So then what we did, and this is our model and has been for a while, is we became a formal second stage upfitter with Ram. So just like Winnebago, just like Thor, like, we are certified by Ram that we are able to modify their chassis and sell them as new, right? So that got rid of the used vehicle issue. We can source them directly from Ram. They ship them right to our doorstep, brand new. And then we do the upfit to them, right? Essentially, we are upfitting them into a motorhome. And then we are basically our own RV dealer as well, or what's called an exempt manufacturer in the state of Colorado. So a direct-to-consumer manufacturer that also can sell. So, I think we are the number 1 Class B dealership in the state, because we sell all of ours out of one dealership. But so we are a formal RV dealer, and we are selling formal RVs. So there's floor plans. The customization things are pretty focused on extra batteries, extra solar. You can't come to us and be like, hey, I want the bed on the roof. Like, no, we don't do that.
Yeah.
And so that really kind of quality controlled the whole thing. And again, I think there's, those other 4 manufacturers that are RVA compliant. They're all doing the same thing, right? They're building on whatever chassis, the Sprinter, the ProMaster. Some do on the Transit, but not a lot. And they're able to title as a motorhome and as an RV, and the make is their make and all of that, just like a Winnebago. So there's very few people that are doing it that way, because bluntly, it is a lot of work to set that up. And I know it because I had to do it firsthand. It took about a year and a half.
Wow.
To get all the certifications. Like, I'm registered with the National Highway Transportation Safety Administration, NHTSA.
Yeah.
I'm in the database. Like, we are a manufacturer listed with them, right along with Audi and Toyota and Honda and DM vans. We have an NADA book value. We have model years that come out every single year. There is a used market that is objective. So, like, it is a lot of work to become a, like, nationally recognized RV manufacturer. So I think that hurdle has been a tough one for not a tough one, but just one that doesn't make sense for everybody. And so there's still a lot of companies out there that, again, they're just kind of, I don't want to say hacking it together, but yeah, you bring them a van, they might source you a van, but you got to go buy the van and you're going to go buy it from a dealership and you're going to bring it to me and then you're going to pay cash separately to the dealership for the van. They're going to pay me cash separately for the build. And then you're going to have this kind of Frankenstein thing that you can probably get insurance. And there's some companies out there that know how to do it. But it's all kind of weird.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. As opposed to like you come to us and it's like, cool, you're buying this motorhome. Here's what's called the MCO. It says DM Van's our model on that. We offer our refinancing, which is 20-year terms through a formal bank, biggest RV lender in the country. RV insurance, which is super affordable. Title is a motorhome, so everything is just by the book. And again, I think that for us, it was just the quality control and the consistency around, let's just do this legit. Like, I don't want to do this in a weird way where everyone's questioning, like, wait, what is this thing? Like, why are you registering it this way? Or what's inside of it? Or how much was that? Like, it just this is what it is. It's just like buying a car, right? It's just like buying an RV. So, we're a little bit different in that sense too, but that's kind of how we've separated the business in a way internally from a concept perspective is like, we're an RV for the safety, the consistency, the process, the legitimacy of like, it's a true motorhome. You go on NADA, DM Vans is right there next to Winnebago. It's the same thing, right? So there's just that sense of that's what we want to take from the RV industry. What we don't want to take from the RV industry is the quality and the design and the approach to the actual manufacturing process. From that world, we're very much still custom. Like we are using real materials. We're using all of the high quality stuff, things that are durable and reliable, like I was talking about. So we're this weird like combination of, we took the good things from the RV industry and left the bad. And we took the good things from the camper van industry and left all that registration weirdness behind. And then we've just blended the two and to make it a much more straightforward process. Because to be the number one thing, as you're talking about, people getting into Vanlife, the van curious thing, right? It's intimidating. Like it is a lot. And we were talking on the phone about this, like bluntly, like me, city kid from living in New York City, like if I can get into it, I'm pretty sure anyone can. It is not as daunting as you think. But our goal was, that's not very clear to people that this is actually easier than you think it is. Because again, if you're going and it's like, okay, wait, so I have to go source the van and I got to go buy it from a dealer or a used person on Facebook, and I've got to go get it titled, and I've got to go bring that over to this guy, and then that guy's going to do an upfit, and he's going to charge me this, and then when I go to the insurance company, I need to show them both bills of sale. Like, yeah, you're overcomplicating it before you even get into the product, which is also intimidating in most of these spaces, right? Like the RV spaces, especially. Like, go step inside of a Class A, like the big coach buses. It is insane. You're like, what are all these buttons and knobs and switches and tanks? And so it's like the process to get in it shouldn't be intimidating, and then the product should not be intimidating. And if you ever look at our product and why we've done it the way we've done is, like I said, we've stripped out so much of that excess to make it as approachable as possible, to just say, like, I want someone to be able to step in this product and say, I get it. I know what this does. I know what that does. It's just kind of universally applicable. And I can, take my knowledge of either cars or houses, and this makes intuitive sense. So again, our whole goal has just been like, let's just make this whole process simpler and more intuitive. And I think we do have a lot of work to do to educate people more on that, to help them realize, like, this is easier than you think. And that's where I said, like, what we're really trying to do is be the trusted educator. Like, I don't want someone to feel like we're trying to sell our product to them first. I just want to tell them, here's our process, here's what we do and why we do it. That fits your life, awesome. Let's talk. If it doesn't fit your life, if you have a family of 5 and you need the extra captain's chairs that some of the bigger sprinters might have for you, like, awesome. I don't want you to have one of our vans because you're not going to have fun with it. You're not going to enjoy it. It's not going to fit your lifestyle. And so it truly is just, how can we get more out in the open to explain all the things I just talked about, the registration, the RVA, all of these things, and really just tell people, like, there is a way to do this that is so normal if you've ever bought a car or if you've ever bought an RV. much more in line with that as opposed to this like, I mean, it literally is like buying someone's house. We're like, yeah, my grandpa built it 100 years ago. And you're like, oh boy.
Yeah.
I have no idea what I'm getting into. And all of a sudden it just becomes overwhelming and you just don't want a part of it. Right. And that's the worst thing that can happen, because I think that what we've noticed, we've got over 700 vans on the road at this point, and to watch what people have been able to do with it. And like, again, the van is not the spotlight of all this, right? The van is the tool. And to be able to just see how it's impacted people's lives, like our actual company purpose is creating possibility to improve lives. That is the goal. And to see the impact we've been able to have when people finally get into the product and what they do with it, whatever it is, as we talked about, it could be anything. There's some crazy stories of people. We've had professional CrossFitters, we've had videographers, travel nurses, I mean, programmers, like it's all over the place. But they all have chosen to live a more authentic kind of alternative life that, again, this will just add value. And so clearly our goal should be, how do we get more, how do we reduce the friction and get more people into that? And this is the way to do it in my mind, is to just standardize it and make it more like the RV industry's been around for like, I think it literally is about 70, 80 years formally with the RVA stuff. And then the first Winnebago, or just at the RVA conference, they were talking about this. It was like 100 years ago, like the first quote unquote, like RV, like the tin, like the, call it, little trailer, retro ones from like the 30s or something like that. So this process has been around, and it's like, why not leverage the thing that's worked for 100 years instead of, you know, making people just kind of creeped out by, this is too complicated, I don't want part of this.
Yeah, it makes sense, because they're looking for freedom. They're looking for an easy way to get on the road, and then you add this layer of complication and stress, like if you're thinking about things breaking and having to drive 5 hours away, or I mean, that's probably best case scenario.
Yeah,
is driving 5 hours away. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense why you would do it that way, and I would imagine that's a relief to a lot of people. You know, it's and just buying something that's new, right? That's got to be huge too.
The warranties and all that are incredibly helpful for people, because we build on the RAM, so any dealership can work on it, but really any mechanic can work on it. And then obviously our own warranty and things like that. And then the only other piece of it is obviously just, you know, going back to your original question, the issue stuff is like, just what is the customer service of the company that you're buying from, right? Like, we put a huge emphasis on that. My tagline internally is that the customer journey it starts when they leave the lot. It doesn't end. Because I don't want to just be, oh, you bought the product, great, like, see you later, good luck out there. Like, my entire CX team, customer experience team, lives in vans. So when you call them, and they live in ours, basically, well, I guess one of them is building a new one, but they know exactly what you are going through. They know exactly how to fix the thing. And so especially with Starlink, like, you actually could be on top of a mountain now, and you can call our customer service team, and they could be like, yeah, just flip this breaker. And it's like, cool. I don't have to do anything. I don't have to leave. I don't have to change anything. And that's, Starlink has been huge for that, because great, you go off grid, no cell service, something breaks. We could fix it, but you can't get a hold of us, right? Starlink now, it's like, yeah, you could be at 14,000 feet and still 200 megabyte download, video call, whatever you need to do. So that's another big one of like asking these companies as you're going through them, what is your service policy? Who do you have working for customer experience? Like, what is your approach to that? Because especially RV dealers, notoriously not the greatest at the service part of it. We're talking about the average turnaround time at an RV service center is 37 days.
Wow.
If something breaks. So you're not even staying on the road that day. You're going to wait a month before you can get your thing back. And so those are, again, those little details of just thinking through, like, okay, God forbid if something does happen, hopefully it's built reliably, so the manufacturer has its obligation, build the thing so it doesn't break. If it does, because again, you are beating the hell out of it, what happens then, right? And so it is kind of the last component of the whole puzzle, is as people are on the road. And it's been cool to see that. Like I said, our first van still on the road. I don't think I know the owner. Ironically, we went to college with him, had no connection, didn't know, we like met, and I'm like, you look familiar. And I'm like, oh yeah, we went to school together 15 years ago. But it's still on the road, right? And so it's been cool to see that of, you know, we did the right things from that perspective. And, you know, we get the little minor issues, but most of it is over the phone, and people just stay on the road, stay out adventuring, or stay doing whatever they're going to do. And yeah, that'd be the most, disheartening thing, is if people have these grand ideas of what they want to do, and then they're grounded for 2 months because they can't use it, and then it keeps breaking on them. It's like a nightmare. Like that would just squash your dreams.
Yeah, it just becomes a stressful situation where maybe you don't even want to take it out that like, weekend or whatever. You're just like, it's going to be too much of a hassle.
Exactly.
So I did want to talk to you about your product line here. So you got 3 main vans, right?
Yep.
And basically, is the main difference there just the size of these vans? So you got the 18-footer, 19.6 feet, and 21 feet.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, is there anything you'd want to say about any of those vans? Like something that maybe like makes it special? You've talked about that a lot, but like which one of the 3 is your favorite? Just all around.
I mean, I live in our LV7, so the 3 sizes, LV3, which is the 136 wheelbase ProMaster. We only build on the ProMaster right now. So the LV3 is a 136, the LV5 is the mid-size one, and the LV7 is the bigger one. They're not, as you said, it's not crazy difference in sizes. Like the Sprinter has a 24-foot long one. I used to live out of that one. That was my first RV. That starts to get a little bit untenable. You talk about bottoming out and things like that, trying to get in a parking lot if you're in a city with a 24-footer. Our 21-footer fits pretty much in any parking spot. I can go to downtown Colorado Springs, Denver, whatever, and park. So really it just boils down to what is your usage. So the small one, weekends, right? If you're doing short trips, it's got a bed, it's got the kitchen, it's got solar, battery, all the essentials to go out and camp, but you're probably not living out of the LV3. It is, in my mind, too small. There are people who do it. We have a couple customers that do it. I'm always impressed that they do it. And our design with the lofted bed and the storage area there actually allows a little more flexibility for that. The mid-size one is just kind of that like just right size where 2 feet bigger than the smallest one. So if you're taking it for a little bit longer, or maybe it's weekend, but it's 2 people instead of 1 person, or 2 people and a dog, or 2 people and a kid, like just gives you 2 extra feet, which doesn't sound like a lot, but 6 feet wide, 2 feet, it's 12 extra square feet on a 40-foot. That's pretty big. That's 30% more space.
Yeah.
So it sounds like it's not a big deal, but it really is. And then, like I said, for me, I live out of the LV7. It's only a foot longer, which again doesn't sound like a lot, but it does afford a little bit more living space in it. But yeah, in general, like you'll notice with the price points and the sizes, like it's not crazy different, right? You're not going to sit there and be like, oh my God, this is so overwhelming of all the different choices. We again tried to make it very digestible of, what's your time frame, how many people, and it's kind of that simple. And then you just kind of go into, do you want slightly bigger or the full thing, and just tailor it to what your use is going to be. But yeah, you look at some of the RV companies and it's like they're offering a 24-foot Sprinter, super small, Transit or ProMaster, and then they've got, it's just like, I don't even know where to start with these of like, what are all the differences between why you're doing all this stuff? And they don't usually have good answers for them. It's just like, I don't know, we just wanted to cast the net wide and you can figure it out.
Yeah, I'm looking at all the features on these too, and we'll make sure we get some photos up in the video that we'll throw into this chat. But looks nice. All the wood grain in these. I'm looking at the V7 right now, and I mean it looks nice. I like how you've got the scenic photos too, showing the backdrop and what's possible. Yeah. That's what I mentioned it on the phone. I have a buddy who's been in van life for I think about 11 years now too. And man, the places that he goes and just the life he lives, where it's just like, all of a sudden he's in Sedona, all of a sudden he's in Silverton, all of a sudden he's headed back to the Midwest where we're all from, and man, it looks awesome.
Yeah. No, and it is what's cool about our ability. Like I think our entire sales and marketing team lives in a van except for one, and so like we were just talking about this on a call of. All the photo shoots are just them out actually living the thing. And then it's like, oh, by the way, I should take some pictures so that we can, show off what we're doing and the product. But like, they're not like staged photo shoots. Like, I mean, they're staged in that like we have to set them up and make the photography look good and all that stuff. But like, it's not performative. Like they actually go out to Moab and they're camping there. And then for a couple of days they take pictures and then they just keep camping in Moab because it's their van and their product and all that. So it is very much, authentic, and that is the goal of we've lived this life, we've lived this experience in all different ways, and all that information, comes back into why the product is designed the way that it is. And yeah, the Baltic birch that we use is because it's reliable and sturdy, and so everything's got a purpose. I tell our team, if you look at the van, it's much simpler, like it's much more open, and it's actually way harder to make a simpler van than it is a more complex van, because a more complex van, you just say, put it in.
Yeah.
Like, whatever, just charge the customer, who cares? But to sit there at the table and be like, here are 100 features, we got to pick 10 for this year, or whatever we're going to upgrade or change for each model year, right? That's really difficult, because it takes a lot of debate. Everyone's got their different use cases of, well, I go off into the middle of the mountains, so I need blank. And it's like, well, I never go to the mountains, so why would I need that, right? And so there's a lot of just this conversation that happens internally to get to the essentials. Like, this is 80% going to cover what everyone needs, no matter what they're doing. And that is very difficult. We have a lot of conversations internally that get a little heated about truly what matters here. And so, again, different approach. And it's the ironic part is that, if you look at our price points, like, I think all of our vans are sub 100,000. They always have been. I mean, hell, they started at like 37 grand was the first one. They are affordable, but they're not cheap. And that's what I always tell people internally is the distinction is like, everything needs to be the highest quality thing you do. We're just going to do less stuff. And it's a very big difference than everything we do is going to be the cheap version. So that, yeah, it's affordable, but like the RVs, it's all going to break, right? And that's kind of the RV approach is make it look good, but we're not going to put the highest quality stuff in here because we're going to keep the price down. Maybe that's fine for people who go to an RV park, plug in, they're not really beating it up, and you're not putting a lot of stress on it. But we, Matt and myself and most of our team, we all go out in the National Forest land right up in Rifle behind our place and all the way down to wherever we go out west. Yeah, it needs to hold up. And we need to just figure out, again, what are the key components here? Because as we talked about earlier, like, I don't want people looking at it being like, well, that could break, that could break, that could break, because it's probably going to break where I'm taking it. So it's been a really interesting process to get to that product, to keep it, reliable, to keep it intentional, and to keep it efficient, which has kind of been our pillars in our design team. So yeah, it is a very thought out process to get to that product, and one that's taken years of living in it across the team. I think we have like probably 50 plus years experience combined. And I myself have maybe 400,000 miles of driving in vans and going all over. And so we try to take all that and put that directly into that product, and then have everything else in the company, the education piece up front and the customer service side in the back. So yeah, it's been a lot of work. But that's what you have.
Oh yeah, I bet. I'm glad you mentioned Rifle too, because I don't even think we mentioned that DM Vans is headquartered in Rifle, Colorado. Which Rifle, Colorado is one of those places where I've been there once. I was in Glenwood Springs, popped down the road to see Rifle Falls, and didn't really spend much time there. And I would venture to say maybe that a lot of the people that are listening, a lot of the people that are traveling around Colorado, tend to overlook Rifle a little bit. But it's a stunning area and just a lot to do there. So maybe to close out the show, I want to hear a few recommendations for what to do in Rifle, Colorado, whether it's food, something food would be great, mostly for me because I'm always hungry. And then maybe some recreation stuff too. Yeah,
no, I do think it's a really interesting part of Colorado. And I think I would actually say it's a very Colorado town in that it's not Aspen, it's not Vail, it's not the, Breckenridge, it's not the main ones that people visiting know of, but just like any Colorado town, like just throw a dart at the map. When you go there, it's pretty sweet. Like, because Colorado itself is just a crazy backyard to have, almost no matter what town you go to in this state, there's going to be some cool stuff there. And so Rifle's no different. Food-wise, I will have to say I need to, you asked another question on the phone about favorite mountain town, and I have to call out Glenwood Springs in that I do think it is one of the best blends and just cool areas for, whatever activities you're interested in. It could be like fishing or just hot springs or there's great mountain biking up and around there. There's, Aspen's close, but Sunlight Mountain's there. Like, there's a lot to do, but very cool town, like a lot of character to it. And the only reason I really bring that up is that Slope and Hatch, if you've never heard of it, or if you have been there, hands down, my favorite place to eat there. Our former shop was in Gypsum, Colorado, so about 35 minutes through the canyon on the other side towards Vail. And there were multiple times that we would drive all the way to Slope and Hatch for lunch and go back, even though it's an hour and a half round trip almost. And so food-wise, I just have to call that one out. I'm not going to give any rifle recommendations. There is a place called Miner's Claim. It's actually in Silt, which is just right down the road from Rifle, and that's actually closer to almost equidistance to our shop because we're kind of in the middle of Rifle and Silt. But that locally to Rifle, Miner's Claim is kind of the main focus, but Slope and Hatch is always the one. And I have some picky taco people like from Texas who are like, no, Texas tacos, you're not even going to touch them. And there's one in particular I can think of that is like, I think about Slope and Hatch every night. Like, it's just so good. So that by far food wise is where to go. I think, recreationally, Rifle is kind of the corridor, if you will, to getting to more places. So you can go north up to Meeker. It's how you get to Craig. It's ultimately how you get to Rock Springs, Wyoming, on 80, right? So if you want to hook up into Jackson or wherever, you actually take, I forget which road it is there that goes north to Meeker, 13 or 31 or something like that. But it is kind of a main pivot point to get to the northern parts of Colorado. And again, get into, I-80 and Wyoming and stuff like that. So obviously within Rifle, you've got Rifle Falls, Rifle State Park, Rifle Gap. There's Harvey Gap as well, which is the other side. And then there's Buford and I think it's West Elk National Forest. It's kind of all right in there, kind of just behind the mesa and behind the mountains there as you drive on I-70. But it's just really cool. And again, like any Colorado town, it's like the backyard's amazing. So there's a lot to do there. Rifle definitely has more of that kind of that corridor infrastructure of like on the other side of the highway, there's the Walmart and a Sonic and an Arby's and a Culver's and all of that stuff. So it is also a stopover, as you're going out west there. But once you get a little bit off of that road, it really becomes a cool spot. So, most people I've talked to who know about Rifle are like, oh yeah, it's really actually amazing. And it's one of those places I don't think many people think of. But yeah, you get lost back there and it turns into a pretty cool spot.
And a great place to be involved in van life too. If you're just talking about going to different places in Colorado, you're kind of right in the middle, and the surrounding states. You're kind of like right there in the middle of everything.
And it's pretty wild, and it's really interesting how, like, so again, we were in Gypsum before, right? So it's about an hour east, closer to Denver, right? So we're about 3 hours to Denver. Gypsum was about 2. Doesn't sound like a big deal, but what that opened up was we are now an hour closer to Fruita. So for the mountain bikers, that was a huge deal because 2 hours versus 1 hour, big difference. You are now 2.5 hours to Moab instead of 3.5 hours to Moab, which again makes a big difference. Yeah. You're 5.5 hours to Salt Lake instead of 6.5 hours to Salt Lake. 7 hours to Vegas, 5.5 hours to St. George area in Utah. Like Zion it's like that 1 hour west shockingly made such a big difference to accessibility of, I think you can get to Zion in 6 hours instead of 7 or 5.5 or whatever it ends up being because of all, and Bryce Canyon and Capitol Reef in Utah. But then, you're also, Grand Junction is just an hour. Then if you want to head south down into like Silverton, Ouray, Telluride area, if you want to hook down Paonia. So it was just amazing. Like we didn't think an hour, like an hour was the difference. Like it's easy. It's just as accessible. And what we found is that, no, it's way more accessible when you're in Rifle to get to these other locations. So that's been a cool part of it is, for our staff, who most of them live in either vans or they live locally in Rifle, to get them that access and accessibility. That's probably why they live in Rifle in the first place. But then, to have vans and have people who live in vans, there, like I said, our marketing stuff, like we just did a marketing event in Moab that was really easy for everyone to go to because it's just 2.5 hours down the road. So you just go there and you're back. One guy just showed up for the night, left the next morning because it's not 3.5 hours, which does make a difference. So that part's been great. We've loved being there. We love Gypsum as well. That area is also amazing. But yeah, both those places, you got White River National Forest kind of covering both sides of it. So it's kind of like you can't go wrong in Colorado in general. But we've appreciated being there, and I think our company's very well ingrained in that area, and it serves us very well.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think everyone listening definitely learned a lot about just, entrepreneurship, but as well as just the world of vans and van life. And, I could sit here and talk for hours about just the stories that you've had on the road and everything. Maybe we'll have to do that next time. But yeah, thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Really appreciate it. One more time, that was Dave Ramsay with DM Vans. If you want to learn more about DM Vans, their website is dmvans.com. So it's easy to find. They have all their products right there. I was browsing it for a while the other day, just dreaming of living a van life. So one of these days I'll make the jump. And these vans are awesome looking vans. So cool stuff.
Thanks.
Good to chat.
Appreciate it. Yep.